Hey, what's up guys, this is Terabyte, and welcome back to Asagao Academy. So, we're ready to go on our date with John. Oh, it's gonna be so cute. Everything about this game is so cute. Alright. I quickly pocketed my phone and my wallet, then turned to Mai. We can finish this conversation when I get back, okay?
Bye-bye!
Okay, have fun. John stood in front of my door, beaming as usual, and holding roses? Aww. Hey, I got these for you. Oh, clicked out of my game. Good job, me. Clicking out of my game. Oh, wow, thank you. I took the bouquet of roses from his hands and staring into the curled blooms. I'd never gotten flowers before, and I didn't really know how to accept them. My parents owned a half-flower shop, after all. I was usually the person selling the flowers, not the one getting them. Amen to that, sister. I didn't own a vase, so I didn't even have anywhere to put them. 1 second. Oh, back already? Whoa! Nice roses! Yeah, John brought them for me. Putting the moves on you, eh? But I didn't know you liked roses. Yeah. Mai searched my face. You don't, do you? It's just that so many people came to my parents' store getting token roses for their partners, even yelling at my parents on Valentine's Day when there were none left because they'd get in trouble. Yeah, totally haven't experienced that before. There was no thought in it, so they don't seem like a meaningful gift to me. But at least he's trying. Anyways, can you find a place to put these? Sure, go on. Get out of here. I smiled in thanks and headed back out into the hall. Okay, to be fair, you know, that's not exactly something that was addressed, as far as I could tell. You know, he didn't go up and go, hey, what's your favorite flower? Or anything like that. So, I mean, if it never came up before, how's the guy to know? So, in any case, just giving John the benefit of the doubt here. I smiled in thanks and headed back out into the hall. Okay, let's get going. Right, where are we off to today? Well, I thought a lot about it, and there's this crazy good restaurant in the mall. I made reservations for a romantic candlelit meal for 2. A candlelit dinner. For lunch? John watched me eagerly, anticipating my reaction. Oh, great! It sounds like fun. He grinned broadly, pumping his arm as if he'd just won a game or something. I chuckled quietly to myself. Sure, so candlelit dinners at lunchtime weren't my jam, but he was still taking me out and trying to show me he cared, even if it was the most stereotypical way possible. Hey, come on. That's the thing, is, okay, you start with the stereotypical stuff, and maybe you guys branch out. I mean, I don't know. You know. And besides, you guys are kids? You know? What is he supposed to do? Take you to the game store and for pizza later? That's totally not romantic. Well, okay, maybe the game store is fun, though. Alright, I'll concede on that one. Never mind. Maybe there wasn't as much thought in it as I would have liked, but the feeling was still there. I could go along with this. Well, okay, there you go. And that's the thing. At this point, have you guys ever been on dates? You just, I don't know, you wing it for the first couple of times. You're not born good at this. So, I mean, some people are, and it's weird. Anyway, that's what I told myself, but holy shit, this was awkward. John and I were seated around a table in the back of a dimly lit room, partially secluded from the rest of the restaurant by plants and paper screen dividers. Partially secluded, as we were surrounded by bickering families and old people out for their usual discount lunch. It was unusually hot, and the couple to our right kept hissing barbs at each other under their breath. The wife had already threatened to divorce her husband twice. You okay? You're looking kind of pensive. Yeah, I'm fine. Sorry, I was just thinking. Thankfully, the waiter came to take our orders. I asked for water with extra ice, and the man smiled knowingly at me. Just before walking away, he produced a small dark box from within his apron. He set it in front of me and winked. With a quick glance at John, he was off. What's this? Open it up. It looked like a jewelry box. John wouldn't buy me jewelry, would he? I grabbed the cardboard lid and ever so gently lifted it up. Inside were 2 small pink flowers, shaped out of what seemed to be some kind of sugar. Oh my gosh! These are beautiful. Aren't they? I had them picked especially for you. I figured you'd probably never had one, considering they're so expensive. He faltered in the middle of his sentence, for once aware that what he was saying was not the best thing given the situation. Anyways, they're my favorites. This old man from back home used to make some every March and bring them around for all the neighbors, which is a lot easier said than done, because some of the grounds were huge. He had to walk quite a ways. Really? Why would he do all that? March was like the best month of anniversary, or was like a month of anniversaries for him. Him and his wife, him and moving into the neighborhood, him and coming to this country, all that kind of stuff. So he tried to share it and bring a sense of community to the neighborhood. That's so cute. My neighborhood used to have a communal barbecues and movie nights and stuff like that. Really? Yeah, people would go together to help watch over each other's kids, and when there was a yard sale or something, or someone was moving, everyone helped out. We knew what it was like to be kind of sad and tired all at the same time, so everyone tried to help out when they could. We were usually happier helping someone out than we were on our own. That's so sweet. He peered at the flower in the box. So you already know all about this then? I know the feeling behind it, but I've never had this before. I'm really excited to try some. Great. He leaned toward me, resting his chin in his palm. His eyes stared deeply into my own, watching me intently. Did he expect me to eat it now? I was hoping to eat it after the meal. Sugar on an empty stomach usually made me feel sick, but seeing his excitement, I suppressed a sigh and took the flower out of the box. Oh! The flower was half crushed by my fingers, even though I tried to pick it up gently. Careful, these things are really fragile. John, with the lightest of touches, took the flower from my hand and set it in his palm, then held it out to me. Here, eat it. He wanted me to eat from his hand? I'm not gonna bite. Go ahead. Blushing furiously, I leaned forward and opened my mouth. John popped the flower into my mouth. It melted immediately. It was sweet and light and almost kind of like cotton candy? Yeah! So you do know it. The waiter brought in our food at that moment, which was a good thing because he blocked my completely incredulous expression from John's view. We headed back immediately after eating, John apologizing profusely for having to cut the date so short. I shrugged it off. I know you have the play and the tournament to prepare for. Thanks for taking some time off for me. You're busy enough as it is. Are you sure you're going to be able to handle everything? Yeah. Well, I have you and everyone else to help me if I need it. It should be fine. He grinned, all optimism and cheer once again. I wasn't convinced. It was a lot to do in only a few weeks, and if there was one thing I knew from projects, it was that people usually underestimated how long they took to finish. John chuckled. You know, I was so worried about you today. Were you really? Oh yeah, totally. I've never been on a real date before, and I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing. Okay, there you go. Of course things are cheesy. It happens. Never been on a real date, huh? The generic roses, the candlelit meal, the sugar-spun flower, suddenly it all made sense. It wasn't that John didn't know what I like, it's that he was too concerned with what he should be doing. John had overthought our date in trying to consider my feelings. The thought was so funny that I burst out laughing right then and there. What? What? What's so funny? Nothing. You're just surprisingly cute. Surprisingly? Yes, surprisingly. Oh. We finally made it to my door, and as we did, I remembered the question Mai asked earlier. I said I would talk to her about it when I got back. Well, thanks for today, John. It was really fun. Wait, before you go. John dug around in his pocket. Internally, I balked. More presents? He withdrew another small black box and handed it to me. I got this for you. I took it, glancing up at him. More sugar flowers? Nope. Open it up and see. Hesitantly, almost warily, I pulled open the tab on the box. John? Inside the box was the necklace I saw in the city, the amethyst strewn with a string of pearls. I remembered that it was your mom's favorite, so I figured you'd want one of your own. Now you can kind of be twins. I mean, it's not much, but I thought it might be nice. It was kind of paying my respects to her, even if I'll never get to meet her. John. Trembling fingers, I clasped it around my neck. Does it look alright? Definitely. You look beautiful. Your mom would be proud. Oh. Oh no, she's crying. Oh no. Oh god, oh no. Oh, why are you crying? Did I do something wrong? Did I overstep my bounds? Oh god, stop crying. Holy shit, please stop. What do I do? What do I do? I pulled him into a hug, burying my face into his shoulder. Nothing. This is a good kind of crying. John patted my shoulders awkwardly. Good? I guess? I wiped my tears and stepped away from him, unable to meet his eyes. Sorry. Right, well then, I'm gonna go. Thank you so much, John. We should do this again sometime. Aw, look at him, he's all surprised. Yeah. It's cute. Yeah, definitely, yeah. John skipped happily away down the hall, hardly a care in the world.
Hana.
Oh hey, back already? Yeah, I am.
What?
Nice necklace. John give that to you? I nodded and then took Mai's hands. Mai, I know John can mess up sometimes, but he's really just the sweetest, most considerate guy in the world. Are we talking about the same John here? I pulled away from her, chuckling lightly. It's weird, Mai. Sometimes John can be such a buffoon, saying the wrong thing at precisely the wrong time, completely ignorant of what you should never say to a girl. But then the other half of the time, he can be super sensitive and understand what someone's going through without even needing to say anything. I shrugged. I just don't get it. But you like it. Maybe. Of course I like it. Well, good. You were so sad the other day, I was real worried. Actually, I was so caught up in the date that I completely forgot about Mr. Bunny, too. Mr. Bunny? I glanced around my bed, looking for the tattered eye patch. I never introduced Mai to him, which was kinda sad. Where was it? Where was it? I dug through the covers of my bed, then under the pillow, then inside the pillow, then under the bed, then between the bed and the wall. I flung the blankets off, scanning the floor as I shook them out. What's going on? Where is it? Where is my Mr. Bunny? What? There was an eye patch here with a button on it. It was fabric. It was Mr. Bunny, or what was left of him, and it... Mai shifted uncomfortably, and I stopped mid-sentence. You! I thought it was trash, so I threw it out while we were cleaning up. I dashed out the back of Primrose, straight to the dumpsters. The cool air chilled my skin, but I barely noticed it. Pulling open the lid of the first dumpster, I lifted myself up over the edge and was about to jump in when... Hana, stop! The trash gets picked up Sunday mornings. Mr. Bunny is gone. I stopped, half hanging out of the dumpster, the smell of rotten milk and old bits of food wafting into my face. Ugh. Slowly I lowered myself down to the ground.
Sorry.
I'm really sorry. I didn't know. If I had known, I would have never done it. No, it's okay. It's okay. I forgive you.
Really?
You do? I nodded. After all, I had real friends now. I didn't need to rely on Mr. Bunny anymore. I'm okay. I'll be fine. Mai searched my face, then she grabbed hold of my hand. Come on, let's go back inside. It's Sunday night, after all. We should have some fun.
Hell!
I know. Can you believe that? She says, I love you, and he says, I know. What the hell? I kind of like it. I think it makes sense.
No!
No, it just makes him a dick. That's why Luke is way better, and he should have gotten the girl. They're siblings. Yeah, but they weren't at first. They could have.
What?
They're siblings. Mai, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm just saying that I think Luke's sexiness goes way unappreciated just because he's... I can't believe you're vouching for incest. They did it in Clueless, too. Get out of my face. Mai's actions were not intentional. I was sure that if she could go back, she would have stopped herself from throwing away Mr. Bunny. As sad as I was, I should try my hardest not to let it go. Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to look at it. I feel like I'm getting close to the end here, so I'm going to try to finish it in one episode. That would be nice. Now say Romeo. John held a small chunk of cracker before the new Jacques, who twitched his head from side to side. Romeo, come on, I know you can do it. Romeo! New Jacques blinked at John. John dragged his hand through his hair. He'd been at this for the last 3 hours, all just trying to teach Jacques the word Romeo. It apparently took him the first 2 hours to get Jacques to hold still on command, and now John was stuck on the very first word Juliet should know in the play. At this rate, I doubted his plan was really going to work out. If Jacques couldn't learn the word Romeo, how was he going to learn wherefore, or forsooth, or bane? Don't worry, the first word is always the hardest. After that, it gets easier. Way easier. I nodded silently. Romeo! Say the word Romeo! Say Romeo, for God's sake! John. I rested a hand on his arm, and he glanced at me. You're right. Sorry. He swallowed, setting down the small cracker. Do you think you could take over? I need a break.
Yeah.
Sure, of course. John collapsed into his bed, a hand over his eyes. I bit my lip. He was so stressed out, and if he was wasting all of his time on Jacques, he wouldn't be able to practice. I turned to the new Jacques. Sure is a shame that this Jacques isn't human. You know, I bet a human Juliet would be able to do this easily. What a weird thought, right? I looked meaningfully at John, but he was barely listening. I heard the costumist made a Juliet costume too. She liked the design and wanted a life-size version for herself. I bet it's really pretty. It's a shame no one will be able to see it under the stage lights. John scoffed. What a waste of her time. So what made you want to have Jacques play Juliet in the first place? John rubbed his face, exhaling deeply. He was mushing his cheeks into little puffs like a chipmunk. Jacques has star quality, unlike anything I've ever seen. You saw him, and you instantly loved him. He had that effect on people unlike any other. That it factor, you know? He was practically begging to go into show business, and if we could just make it happen, imagine where that would take us. A grin spread across his face. I nodded slowly. And this Jacques is the same? Well, there's only one Jacques now, so he better be. There was a note of finality to his voice, so I turned back to the bird in question. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? Nothing. The play was only 2 weeks away. Would Jacques really be ready in time? If he wasn't, the play would be a total disaster. I looked at John again, my conversation with Mai from just a few days before bouncing around in my mind. If he got a human Juliet, almost all of his troubles would be fixed. He wouldn't have to worry about spending time teaching her lines, because she could do it on her own, and instead of worrying, he could study. Mai said to look for opportunities, right? Well, here one was. I took a deep breath. John, I really think you should consider a human Juliet. Maybe you and Jacques, the old Jacques, would have been able to pull this off, but not this one. John sat up and blinked at me. I expected immediate refusal, but instead cogs were turning in his mind. Maybe. Maybe you have a point. A pained expression crossed his face, and I wasn't sure whether it was because he missed the old Jacques, he was mourning the opportunity lost, or he was trying to imagine the play in a different way than he had the entire year. Probably all three. To be fair. But you know, what if we tried a new technique? Yeah, we'll let him outside if he gets a word right. That'll definitely be enough incentive, right? He beamed at me, and I was too glad to finally see him smiling again to turn him down. Besides, once John decided on something, that was how he was doing it. Fair enough. With a sigh, I turned back to Jacques. Romeo, say the word Romeo.
Hey!
You know, you've gotten a lot better with birds. I thought things would get worse after Jacques destroyed Mr. Bunny. Yeah, well, you know what they say, practice makes perfect. And it was kind of hard to be afraid of something when you were furious with it. It was the middle of the week, and class just ended. John, as he often did nowadays, went rushing out the door as soon as the bell rang. I put my books in my bag, intending to follow to help out with today's Jacques training session, when PBG stopped me.
Hey!
Hana, can I talk to you for a second? I'm in a little bit of a rush. Can it wait? I moved a step past him, and PBG threw an arm out to stop me. I don't think it can, but let's not talk here. PBG and I headed out to the campus away from the flood of students and their listening ears. His face was grim, his hands firmly in his pockets. With each step we took, my anxiety increased. What was so wrong that PBG had to talk to me about it? It wasn't until we got to the soccer field, nearly empty considering it was just after class, that PBG finally told me what was on his mind. Is John okay?
What?
What? What makes you ask something like that? He gave me a look, one that said, I'm not stupid, that's what. I sighed. I know John's been struggling since Jacques left, but now there's a new Jacques? It's blatantly obvious it's not the real Jacques, but John keeps trying to convince me that it is, even though he knows I know otherwise. I don't want to say anything about it since John was so adamant, but it's really weirding me out. His grades are falling, he's hardly sleeping anymore, and on top of that, he's not showing up for meetings or paying any attention to club business. He's one of the founders, he can't just leave everything to us, we're a team. We all need to work together. And now he's dragged you into it, too. What do you mean, dragged me into it? I want to help him. Besides, I'm perfectly fine.
No.
I've seen you rushing off after class, following him to our room. Then you stay until I show up after soccer practice, and you rush right on out without so much as a hello. What's going on? Have you even had time to sleep, study, go to dinner? You don't go to dinner with John, do you? You guys aren't dating, are you? I grabbed his arm on impulse, gently rubbing them to prevent the boy from an imminent heart attack.
Hey!
PBG, calm down. Please calm down. I know things look really bad right now, but... But what? But they would get better? There wasn't a chance in hell that would happen, not with John being completely unwilling to take suggestions. But we'd win the tournament? Those odds looked bleak too. I hadn't had time to practice since getting wrapped up in the new Jacques. I was just kind of hoping that my prior practice, and Shade's advice, strategy as always, would pan out for me. Then what? What could I really say? PBG seemed to be thinking the same thing. He took a hand out of his pocket and rested it on my arm. We formed a weird kind of circle, both trying to comfort the other. He shouldn't be allowed to drag you into this, too. It's one thing to risk his own well-being, but... PBG seemed sincerely distressed about what possible harm I was coming to. The thought was both charming and slightly ludicrous. In spite of myself, I started giggling. What? Why are you laughing at me? It's nothing, it's just... You're so thoughtful, PBG.
What?
What? I wiped tears from my eyes, struggling to calm down.
PBG.
You're always looking out for me. I really do appreciate it. No, it's really nothing. You're right that it's making things a little bit tougher on me, but that's okay. I volunteered for this. Things are bad, but I can't just abandon John. Not when he clearly needs me most. But I can't be there all the time. Can you try and make sure he's eating and sleeping? There's no way we'll be able to get everything done, and it's not looking like things will go well. He's only going to get more and more worked up. At the very least, we can prevent some of the damage it'll cause by making sure he's at least a little bit healthier than he would be if we left him on his own. PBG pouted, seeming somewhat annoyed. I felt bad getting him involved too, but I knew I could count on him when I needed help. There's no stopping John if he doesn't want to, but I can try. PBG glanced away for a second, running a hand through his hair. So you like him then?
What?
What? No, of course I don't. There was that look again, the I'm not stupid. Maybe a little. Well, that's fine. Yeah, maybe you'll be good for him. He sighed heavily. It wasn't all that joyous. All the joyous, teasing response I expected from him. Do you not think we'd make a good couple? I know it seems unlikely. No, just the opposite. You guys would make each other happy. I can really see it working out in the long term. He sighed again. And why are you... Anyways, I don't want to keep you. We have practice today anyways. I better not see you in his room when I get back. Go home early today and get some work done. Look after yourself. I will. Thanks, PBG. Oh, he looks really sad. I rushed off the field, hoping I didn't miss anything important during today's teaching session. He looked really sad. I think he was gonna say that he liked her. Oh, there were only 2 days left until the first performance. Goodness. Surely there was something we could do. Soon it was the day before the play, and the new Jacques was nowhere even close to ready. We only just managed to get him to keep his Juliet costume without throwing off the hat every 5 seconds. There's absolutely no way we were going to be able to teach him how to act and make Shakespeare intelligible to an uninformed audience. John paced nervously before me, biting his fist. Bags lined his eyes, his face was pale, and every time I came over to his room was another degree messier than I thought humanly possible. From hanging around him for the past few days, it was clear he was completely consumed by thoughts of the play. I tried to distract him by talking of other things, telling stories, making jokes, but it was no use. John had a one-track mind. Even when I managed to engage him in something else for a second, he immediately likened it to the play afterwards. Well, he is pretty stressed out, as far as I can tell. So, I mean... But... Jeez. Do you think we'll be able to get Jacques to do something like that? I had never been so near a human putting themselves under so much stress, and I had no idea what to do. At this point, I was worried about more than just the play and the tournament. I was seriously concerned about his health. If he was like this now, how would he be in 5 years in the future when his job or family's future was on the line? If he kept going like this, something had to give. I didn't want to have to watch that happen. Hana. I jumped. John stopped pacing and was now facing me, a look of utter defeat on his face. I really don't know what to do. I don't think this Jacques is going to work out.
Really?
What? Really? You finally realized it? Up until now, he'd been adamant that it would just require a little more time. It's just, I'm so frustrated. Absolutely everything else is going perfectly. The sets are done, the extras are doing amazing, all the other actors and actresses are kicking ass, the costuming is out of this world for a school production. The lighting, the sound design, the props, everything is set for a perfect play, except for this, and I don't know what to do. He collapsed into a seat on the couch and I wrapped an arm around him. This isn't even counting the tournament. I've been trying to practice every night, but half the time I fall asleep when I start. And then PBG comes home and we have to do our assignments and I stay up late doing those. I must be missing something. There must be some way to make this work. It'll be okay. Don't worry. It'll all work out. I mean, you're giving it everything you've got, aren't you? That has to mean it'll work out. It has to. I rubbed his back, staring straight ahead. Truth be told, I didn't think it was going to work out. The writing was on the wall. But I could see where he was coming from. Even now, I held a small sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, a miracle would somehow occur. It seems stupid to suggest the grandiosity of a miracle for something as silly as a school play, but still. Maybe that miracle consisted of a simple choice. Are you sure you don't want to switch to a human Juliet? John flinched and shrugged my arm off his shoulder. Of course not! I have a vision for this play, Hana. A vision. Okay, whatever you say, John. Besides, do you think just switching now would do anything? She'd need her costume adjusted, the lines memorized, and we'd have to redo and relearn the blocking for everyone, and find newly sized props, and she'd have to be sufficiently talented. It won't work. I clenched my hands together in my lap, running my thumb over each. Sure, it'd be a lot of work, but I felt like John was determined to be as miserable as possible. If he wasn't so set in his ways, if he actually listened to other people's advice or suggestions, this wouldn't have happened. He honestly brought this all on himself, but he couldn't see that. It was Jacques' fault, or the world was a mean place. It had nothing to do with him being what amounted to, honestly speaking, a bad leader. But I gritted my teeth. What would telling him now do? He'd just get even more angry, no doubt. It's a hard situation. I mean, what do you do? If he wouldn't listen, he wouldn't listen. It's just... John's voice caught in his throat, and he took a few deep breaths before starting over. A small pang of guilt hit me, but I shook it off, my head swimming. It's just that it's not just me counting on this to work. There are so many people who put in their time, effort, their passion. So many people who worked so hard, gave up sleep, hurt themselves, worried about this play. And now because I couldn't teach this damn bird, it's all going to pieces. He put his face in his hands. I feel like George Lucas after he realized the Phantom Menace was actually a piece of shit. I don't know if anybody could really feel that bad. I rubbed his back, nodding. There was nothing else I could really say. The truth of the situation was that John messed up, and nothing I said or did would cushion the blow. John was in charge of the entire play. If something went wrong, he was, by virtue of that position, at least partially at fault, for he made the decision to do that thing, or trust that person somewhere down the line. It won't be as bad as you're imagining, I'm sure. That, at least, was something I could truthfully say. John shook his head again, then wrapped his arms around me and buried his face in my shoulder. I stroked his hair, and we sat like that in silence. It was all we could do. Finally, Romeo and Juliet's opening day arrived. I made it to the theater an hour earlier than call time, partially because of the nerves and partially because I knew my costume would be an absolute bitch to put on. Slowly, the other cast members began to show up. Warm-ups were performed, makeup was put on, stretches were stretched. Actors were an interesting bunch. Some of them were completely insufferable, the kind of people who tried to take attention from others because they definitely were making up for something else. Some were also shallow people who collected numbers and treated everybody like a best friend they hadn't seen in years, screaming out names and pulling them into bear hugs only to talk shit about them minutes later. Some of them were the most unique, quirky, clever people you could ever meet. Some were humble, some were even adverse to attention until they were actually on stage. One in particular I hadn't even heard speak, outside of yes, no, and his own lines. There were those who liked the poetry of words, those who loved plowing the psychological depths of a given character, and those who treated scripts as treasure hunts or puzzles, reading them over and over for the single line that would allow them to completely reinterpret the character's motivation. All in all, I liked the atmosphere, and this surprised me. I was a quiet person, a bookworm, and a nerd. I didn't really like having people's attention, and being surrounded by too many strangers made me nervous, especially when I couldn't trust them. But here, people were energetic, people were funny, People were bright. More accurately, people were all over the place. This is very true. It seemed like almost anything could happen, and despite the potential for mockery, no one treated me like a weirdo. They just accepted my quirks as they were. I understand why John wanted to make the play a success, and how keenly he felt everyone's passion and hard work. I almost wished I could keep doing it. Almost. But that only made it harder when John finally showed up looking like the actual reincarnation of the Grim Reaper, new Jacques in tow. Hana, you look great. I stared at myself in the mirror. Yes, great. Exactly how I would have put it. Truly, tree is my most natural state.
John.
Oh my god. Oh my god, the little avatar picture. Why? Why? Oh my god. Thanks, John. Really. I'm honored to have the chance to play the part of Tree. Even though it was awkward to have swords flying in front of my face and people making out at my feet. How do you think things are going to go? You feeling okay? I can say words. John cleared his throat, then smiled. Of course, things are going to go perfectly, all according to plan. I just know it. John did not know it. The play opened to a polite smattering of applause. The first bunch of students rolled out on stage, gathering into an actual chorus line before delivering the prologue of the play. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona, where we lay our scene. The scene switched, this time to a public area. I shuffled out in my tree garb, perching right in the middle of the stage. Muffled laughter came from the audience. My hair was still quite visible, despite my being a tree, before the actors started in on their lines. Laughter quickly faded as an all-out brawl settled on the stage, John's knowledge of stage fighting coming out in full force. The audience gasped and cooed as the actors slugged it out. To the audience, it must have seemed like particularly good acting, but I knew those actors sincerely hated each other. A few times I caught them actually trying to hurt each other. So far, so good. You'd be surprised. It wasn't long before Romeo himself came onto the scene, decrying his unrequited love for one unseen Rosaline. I narrowed my eyes. Romeo and Juliet was supposed to be a play about true love or something, but I didn't really see it. The audience seemed to enjoy it. As long as things kept going like this, everything would be fine. But we weren't even able to teach Juliet's lines. Juliet. I held my breath as the scene ended, and I shuffled off stage. In no time, it was Juliet's first scene. God forbid, where's this girl? What, Juliet? Oh, he's cute. Oh no. Oh no, it's so cute. Shock twitched on stage, glancing between the two, and just stood there, in silence. Oh no! Out of nowhere, a voice bellowed across the speakers. How now? Who calls? John? Was John going to read Juliet's lines? Your mother. Madam, I am here. What is your will? The audience seemed a bit perplexed, but either way, they went along with it. A bird on stage was a novel sight after all, and they seemed to be intrigued by getting something they weren't expecting. Still, John wouldn't be able to pull this off for long. Eventually, Romeo would need to speak to Juliet, and when that happened, my lips, two blushing pilgrims, ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss. John approached Jacques. Juliet was supposed to rebuff Romeo here, at least at first. My heart pounded in my chest as John grew closer and closer. Jacques twitched his head from side to side. Please, Jacques, please tell me you learned something. And then Juliet opened her mouth. Whoa, my love, I am dying. Lay the sword to my breast and poison to my lips. Yeah, I am dead. John paused, unsure of what to do with this development. Whispers echoed through the theater, and I couldn't tell whether they were more from the actors or the audience. Have not saints lips and holy palmers too? Dead, dead, I am dead, I am hungry, feed me. I hid my face with my hands, I couldn't watch. The play went on like that, the actors valiantly trying to work around Jacques' utter insistence of his own demise. By the time early intermission rolled around, the audience was audibly upset. People shifted in their seats, sighing, grunting. Women whispered, cutting remarks to their husbands. The outrage, though concealed, was palpable. At this point, there wasn't even a plot. It wouldn't have been avant-garde had John. It would have been avant-garde had John and the others known how to play off her mistakes, but none of the actors knew how to improvise Shakespeare. They plowed through the scenes as if Juliet said all the right things, and as a consequence, nothing made sense. I watched it all play out in front of me, trying as hard as I could not to cringe. Trees, after all, did not cringe. That's very true, and very admirable. Go you, Hana. As the cast sat in the dejected huddle during the first intermission, John peeked behind the curtains, trying to gauge how the audience was taking it. People are even asking for their money back. At the rate this is going, people are going to leave before the play's even over. John, I'm so sorry. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? The show must go on. John gazed at me. The other cast members watched us, the room stuffy and silent. So it must.
Hey!
Hey, at least you didn't direct the room. It could have been worse. This is at least better than that. Oh my god. Is it? John fixed a smudge in his makeup in the mirror, probably caused by a nervous habit of rubbing his face and hair, then lined up before the curtain. No, I wouldn't even know anything about that. The stage lights dimmed. Is it really? The play continued on. In a way, it was almost inspiring how the actors kept trying to give their best performance and how John bullheadedly continued with his vision in stark defiance of reality. The audience grew more and more restless as they saw the quality of the play wasn't improving. The more proactive of them trickled out of the theater. John grew irate. Backstage, a feeling of gloom and despair floated through the air. It was a doomed production. Everyone cared, everyone was passionate, everyone was giving it their all, but nothing they did was save the play. Actors quietly opened bottles of water, hardly speaking to each other. It was like seeing kids soberly lining the walls of a candy store. It was just plain wrong. I sat with them backstage, listening to the play, when John came flying around a corner. Where's Jacques? He was panting heavily, abject terror on his face.
What?
Jacques, can you not find it? He's gone. He's nowhere to be found. I think he flew away. Oh. Sad. John's knees buckled and he collapsed onto the floor. It's too late. I can't do anything else. The play is over. He's gone. He's gone. He's gone. I put a hand on his forehead, which was burning hot. He was breathing quickly, his eyes staring straight ahead, not even registering what was in front of him. He wasn't in the theater with me. He was lost in his mind. He was having a panic attack. I swallowed hard and pulled him into a sitting position. When I had panic attacks back home, my dad always helped me calm down. I pulled John's head to my chest, stroking his hair. Hey. You're alright. You're safe. You're backstage in the theater at Asagao. You're wearing your Romeo costume, and I'm dressed as a tree. It's hot back here. The floor is rough underneath you. The people here at the play care about you and want you to be happy. Your friends love you and want you to be happy. I love you and I want you to be happy. John's breathing started to slow and he clutched my arms. Also, I'm dressed as a tree. That is the thing. John let out a light chuckle, mopping sweat off his brow. He sat up, clearly a bit shaken, but much better than before. He took my hand and smiled. Thank you, Hana. I nodded and pulled him into a hug. I miss old Jacques. Jacques would have been able to do the play. Jacques wouldn't have let me strain myself. Jacques would have cared about my well-being, and he would have been able to calm me down. And John took a deep, shaky breath, just as a realization struck me so hard I felt like I'd been slapped in the face. John hadn't been able to grieve. Between the play, the tournament, and school, John had no time to actually feel and mourn his best friend's passing. Instead, he and I instantly found a replacement that only cemented how much he lost in the first place. This was partially my fault. What should I do? Be real with him.
Well,
John, listen. I swallowed. I hated being the bearer of bad news. Jacques is gone. There's no getting him back. This new bird was a mistake. There's no replacing Jacques, and I think you and I both know it. We were being too stubborn, trying to force something that wasn't meant to be. We. I think we both need to learn how to let things go. John didn't say anything for a long while. I stroked the back of his hair, heart pounding, hoping beyond hope that I hadn't done any damage and made it worse. Snippets of the play floated through the cracks in the curtains. They were getting close to Juliet's next scene. Would he just have to stop the play? John pushed himself away from me. I'll be right back. John scurried into the back room and I bit my lip. Did I do the wrong thing? Some of the other actors watched as I crossed to and sat down in a corner of the room. When I looked at them, they looked away. As if this whole situation wasn't bad enough. Finally, John returned, solemnly carrying a pile of bunched fabric in his hands. It looked kind of familiar. He came up to me, then gently set it on my lap. I ran my hands across it, smoothing it out. It was thick and heavy and purple and beige. I straightened it, and the folds of the dress spilled onto the floor. Juliet? Do you mind taking over?
what?
But, John, I'm not an actress. I know you know the lines from trying to teach them to Jacques this whole past month. I heard you while you were practicing. You were trying to teach him the emotion, not just the words. And the thing is, you were good. Not great, of course, but good. You make a fantastic tree, but I think you make it even better, Juliet. And if I hadn't been so stubborn, I would have seen this sooner. John, I don't know. I'm not really the acting type. I have really bad stage fright, and I'm just not sure. Hana. Even if you don't think you could do it for yourself, couldn't you do it for me? My hand shook as I held the dress up, trying to imagine it on myself. There was no way this was going to go well. There was no way. But then, it wasn't as if the play could get any worse. I wanted to take some of the strain off John. Even if this meant that the play completely bombed, at least we could face the devastation together. For once, John was truly relying on me. If it's for you, I think I can try. John immediately pulled me into a bear hug, crushing my arms against my ribs, then just as quickly pulled away. Go get changed, hurry, I'll stall for as long as I can. But, go! Aww, cute! John pushed me toward the dressing room, then rushed into the wings. I sprinted into the back room. The costumer stood back there, sheer glee on her face. I always hoped this costume would see the light of day. She stripped me down, practically demolishing my tree costume in her rush. I can fix it later. And pulled Juliet's dress over my head. Hana, you've completely transformed. She placed Juliet's hat on my head, and as she did, I peered into the mirror. Oh, she's so cute! The costumer smacked me on the back, jolting me back to my senses. I had to hurry. I ran to the wings, trying to peer on stage. John was wandering the front and bemoaning the loss of his fair Juliet, certain members of the audience mumbling under their breath. Where was I supposed to enter from? I glanced around, utterly confused. Oh, woe, if it were my fair maiden would grace me with her fairest of presences. Shit, I need to get out there. Nothing for it. That's cute. I emerged as gracefully as I could, head bowed under the harsh lights. John turned, shocked, but immediately covered his expression. My most fairest of maidens, hark. O fair, how haveth thee foundeth thyself upon this balcony of mine desire? I flushed. Now was I supposed to improv? In Shakespearean? My heart of hearts, my love of loves, not but mine horrid folk have trappeth me here. Trappeth. You gotta say it with a... That worked, right? Exactly Where exactly in the plot were we? Mine love, I rushed over here as soon as I had received thine hasty message. Thine sweet Romeo, star of thine heavens, and you, the refreshed hope of mine heart. I shall rescue you, and we shall then flee and frolic as none ever have. John lifted his arms to me. I stared at him. He didn't mean for me to jump, right? Surely he was joking. But John made a face at me and flicked his fingers towards him. I swallowed. For thee, my love, for thee I overcome. With a deep breath, I climbed onto the edge of the balcony. Then, eyes closed, I jumped. Ugh! I collapsed right on top of him and John fell to the floor. Hearing John grunt, I rolled off and away from him, ending up against a fake bush and knocking it down. I wheezed, desperately trying to catch my breath as John crawled over to me. Hana, are you okay? Irk. Hana? The play. Oh, how often when men are at the point of death have they been merry, which their keepers call a lightning before death? Oh, how may I call this a lightning? Oh, my love, my wife, death that hath sucked the honey of thy breath, hath had no power yet upon thy beauty. John immediately launched into Romeo's death of Juliet's speech, and I closed my eyes doing my best impersonation of a dead person that I could muster. It wasn't hard, given the circumstances. And lips, oh, you. The doors of breath seal with a righteous kiss, a dateless bargain to engrossing death. John turned toward me, eyes lit with determination. Oh no, I forgot all about this part. He placed his arms on either side of me, his face coming closer and closer. My heart beat rapidly as I tried my hardest not to scrunch up my face. My first kiss. And on stage, in front of everybody. John cupped his hands around my chin, then placed his thumbs over my mouth. Murph? He kissed the tips of his thumbs ever so tenderly, then pulled away, all the sorrow of a grieving man in his eyes. Thus, with a kiss, I die. John collapsed next to me, hand in mine. The actors playing our families rushed out on stage. John and I giggled quietly. That went well. Better than expected. You were right, Hana. A human Juliet was 1,000,000 times better. Not least of all because I think I finally understood how Romeo felt about her. John. I mean, you almost killed me. John. Just kidding. John grinned, nudging me in the ribs. Shh. In the end, the play was a success. Well, comparatively. People praised the action-packed twist at the end, seeing the entire play as a strange avant-garde performance. Juliet was a bird because she was treated as subhuman until she was finally able to exercise her free will, or something. Under this artsy pretense, we were given the benefit of the doubt and allowed to continue the play. People complimented me on a job well done, though they didn't necessarily mean my performance. A few people did say my death was pretty convincing, though. As we hung up our costumes, John and I joked to ourselves about the new Jacques' mysterious disappearance. I think he flew to the Bahamas, or maybe he returned to that creepy shopkeeper. I'm just glad he's out of our lives now. He was nothing but trouble. Are you sure he's not hurt, though? Are you kidding me? That bird is even more stubborn than I am. He's got a survival instinct surpassing the fiercest lion of the savannah. He'll be fine. Well, that's nice that everything worked out, at least. Well, except for the bird having gotten away. Honestly, it was better that he was gone. He would be happier that way. John said that I would play Juliet from now on, and we could practice whenever we liked, though I wasn't too keen on that idea. Overall, as we headed to our dorms to practice like crazy before the tournament, I was happier than I'd been in a long, long time. Maybe there was something to this acting thing after all. Oh, she discovered a new thing that she likes to do. I awoke the next morning feeling like an entirely new person. I grabbed my uniform, laying it flat against my chest, and glanced into the mirror. It is I, Hana, an actress. I giggled quietly to myself. My groan from her bunk. Sorry. I changed in my uniform and dashed out the door. Today was the day of the tournament. Maybe I could turn one win into two? I stepped out in the fresh spring air, taking a deep breath. My event was one of the first ones to go. so I had to be there earlier than most. Plus, it took a little time to get to Higabana. I set my shoulders and started across campus. The arcade at which the tournament was being held was much smaller than I expected. I felt like I'd find some kind of convention, but instead it was a small local arcade filled with arcade machines. Smaller rooms split off, which was probably where the individual competitions would take place throughout the day. It's got rockin' music. A few people milled about the space, generally older folks in their 20s and 30s. I glanced at the agenda in my head and made my way to one of the back rooms. Oh, sorry. When I entered the competition room, I found 2 chairs on an elevated platform, a computer and a projector sitting between them and hooked up to separate controllers. Ian sat in one of the chairs, looking bored out of his mind. Ian!
Hey.
It's about time you showed up. I was starting to get worried that you died. Okay. Aw, that's sweet of you to be concerned. Is it? Yeah? I got in the chair next to him. A man came over to check my name and club affiliation. I'm part of the Normal Boots Club. A small surge of pride made me sit up straighter as I said it. There were chairs lined up for people to watch us compete, and to my surprise, the entire room soon filled. As the chairs were filled, my nerves grabbed a hold of me. I swallowed hard, searching the crowd to find John. Oh, there he was! My anxiety eased. I smiled and I made a little wave, and he waved back. The lights around Ian and I dimmed, and the projector started up, showing the main menu of Dumby Doom's Revenge. I almost said Dumbledore's Revenge. It was time to start. As the MC began his introduction and explained the rules of the game, Ian turned to me, a smirk on his face. Sure you're ready for this?
Yeah.
You bet I am. Ready to go? The man turned to us, Ian and I nodded. Then, 3, 2, 1. Start. The game began. I immediately clicked to fill my screen with 2 more lines of blocks. Ian began working with what he had. I scanned the blocks for the pink hearts, eliminating them one by one, making combos where I could. I still wasn't advanced enough to plan tons of combos ahead of time, but I could make it much more likely for combos to happen through probability. Pinks were all gone. Green leaves were next. Dumby Doom started flipping at the top of the screen. Ian must be comboing, which meant that I had a few seconds before all those blocks would fall. I set up a combo at the top of the screen and started eliminating the orange blocks below it. Then it happened. A 6 combo jumped out at me from my screen. My eyes crossed as I stared at it in shock. I just had to move the top black over 1 space, and then as quickly as I saw it, it vanished. The blocks looked normal again. You're dead. As Ian's blocks fell upon my humble kingdom, I slid the combo into place. 2, 3, 4 combo, 5 combo, 6 combo, 7 combo, 8 combo. Ian's attack converted into blocks and hovered above mine. I set up several more combos and waited for them to fall. 10 combo, legendary. Dumby Doom started farting out rainbows over Ian's zone, then blocks, so many blocks. They didn't come in a chunk, they came in a torrential downpour all over Ian's side, sliding from left to right and back again. Ian blinked, his hands and his eyes moved frantically over the screen. I wasn't sure he'd ever seen something like this before. I sure hadn't. I continued to combo while this was happening, but at this point there was no need. Ian's screen filled up. He kept trying to make combos until the very end, but game over. That was it. I won. I stared dumbfounded at the screen in front of me. Ian's mouth hung open. The room was silent. Then,
Whoa!
yeah, Hana!
Aw, yeah.
I knew you could do it. I glanced up to see the room applauding. All of it, even the Hidden Block Club. The announcer was gaping at the screen. I've never seen a score that high. Certain I was red as a tomato, I stood to climb off the platform. Not so fast. Ian stepped in front of me, grim as always. I braced myself for his infamous sarcasm. But to my surprise, he laughed.
Hana,
That was a hell of a game, Hana. That's exactly what I wanted from you. He held a hand in the air, and I looked at it in confusion. Don't leave me hanging. Come on. This is not Jacksepticeye's channel, but yeah! I high-fived him, and he clasped my hand in his. Thanks, Hana. That was fun. Then he disappeared into the pressing crowd. I forced my way through it myself, eager to find John. A bouquet of roses was thrust into my vision. I took it and looked up. I thought you deserved flowers after your wondrous debut. Since you didn't get any last night and all, a lead actress deserves to be given flowers. I gazed at the deep red roses, happiness flooding me. This time they truly meant something.
John.
Thank you. Anyways, I've got to go get going for my event. Wish me luck. I don't need to. I'm coming with you. Okay, then let's get going. Oh, yay! I followed John to an event room at the front of the arcade. It was a small space. Only a handful of people were there to watch the incoming battle of the retro gamers.
Hey!
Hey, John, ready to fight? I had to double up on events this year, and I don't have your history with retro games, but I'll put up as much of a fight as I can. We'll see how it goes.
What's up?
Are you okay, John? You don't look too good. For the first time that day, I truly looked at John and realized Jimmy was right. John was pale and there were deep bags under his eyes. His hands were trembling ever so slightly. I've had a rough few weeks, but after this, everything will be much easier to deal with. Oh. I wasn't able to practice much. Well, maybe you still have a chance. Not that I'm going to go easy on you. I wouldn't want you to. John, are you sure you're alright? John heaved a heavy sigh. It's just that I'm one of the founders of Normal Boots, and here I was so caught up in my own business that I could hardly even practice. I barely deserve to call myself a member, let alone a founder. John, you can't be serious. You dealt with a death, losing your leave for the play, then a terrible performance of that play, and got yourself a new girlfriend. And you think you should have found a way to put even more pressure on yourself? New girlfriend? Are the participants ready? Of course, right at the moment the pig-faced MC popped into the room. We're running a bit behind, so let's hurry it up. John made a face at me, then took his place beside Jimmy and picked up a controller. Right. The person with the highest score at the end of this level wins. On your marks. Get set. Play. John pressed start, and away the game went. Of course, it became apparent very quickly that John wasn't wrong in his assessment of himself. There was no way he was going to win. He needed to have practiced more. John played his very best right up until the end, but it wasn't even close. Jimmy finished with several thousand points ahead, and John set down his controller with a grimace. The crowd, disappointed after hoping for a good show, retreated back into the main entry hall. John stared at his hands. Hey. There's always next year. It was a pleasure. John nodded, extending his hand for a handshake. Congratulations. Jimmy took John's hand, the relief so plain on his face that it was almost painful. Hey. You still did really well, despite the circumstances. I'm sure I did. At least you won your event. Maybe with that, we still have a chance. And just like that, John was his regular, cheery self, though still a bit tired. Want to go look around? Are you sure you're alright? He shrugged. It's over. What am I gonna do? Mourn? He grinned at me and I chuckled half-heartedly. Too soon, John. Then let's go play.
Yeah!
Alright! Eventually, the MC took the stage, ready to announce the winner of the tournament. John's hand slid into my own as the MC pulled the tiny envelope containing the results. And the winner of this year's tournament is... the Normal Boots Club! Yay! Yes! John and I screamed and punched the air, and given that our hands were intertwined, it looked like we combined forces to take out some kind of monster, anime style. The Normal Boots Club and I swarmed the stage, piling around both the trophy and the MC. John grabbed the microphone from the MC, who looked as though he'd been mugged. This year's victory goes right to the rest of my club members. I really dropped the ball, and if it weren't for them, there's no way we would have won. John motioned to the group of us on stage, pausing to allow for the audience applause. Finally, I have two announcements. First of all, join us in welcoming Hana Mizuno, the newest member of the Normal Boots Club, and my girlfriend. A swarm of gasps flew from the men around me. John motioned to me in the front of the stage where I stood next to him, blushing furiously. We couldn't have won without her. Ain't she cute? John? I shoved him and the crowd laughed. Then something soft encircled me. PBG wrapped a Normal Boots jacket around my shoulders. Thank you. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have won, and Asagao Academy wouldn't have a drama club. She's the real hero of this day. The audience applauded politely once again. John smiled gently at me, then turned to face the crowd with a rather serious expression. Finally, I have one more announcement. He waited a few months for the crowd to settle. As they saw the look on his face, the mood sobered. I would also like to dedicate this victory to our fallen comrade in arms, Jacques. Sadly, he's no longer with us. I haven't been able to find a way to repair him, and until that day comes, our robot bird friend will be missed. I wrapped an arm around John's shoulder as he lowered the microphone from his face. There was a moment of silence, and then John passed the microphone back to the MC. After John's announcement, there wasn't much more to the tournament. The crowd left soberly, and the excitement of our victory vanished. At least it did until Satch met us just outside the arcade.
What?
Jacques has been broken this whole time? Why didn't you tell me? Let me have a look at him. I'll see what I can do. Satch took Jacques under his wing and enlisted the help of the only other person in the academy who could understand robots. Kakasu. I don't understand. Why her of all people? Is she part of the electronics club or something? Don't worry about it. John paced the floor like an expectant father, glancing up every so often at how the operations were proceeding. John, don't worry. Jacques can't get any worse than he already is. I know that, Hana. I know. John stopped pacing, instead coming to rest his hand on my shoulder. I know he can't get any worse. But what if he gets better? Part of me wants him to come back, and part of me... John? What if he doesn't have his memories anymore? What if he's got a completely different personality? What if he doesn't like me? How in the world am I going to deal with that? John, I really don't think you need to worry about that. A small thump came from inside the room and John jumped. Everything okay? Nothing to report. We've got it handled. John resumed pacing the floor. No matter what I did, nothing would calm him down. He was beyond help. Finally, the operations were done. Satch and Kakasu approached us nervously. Well, how did it go? The operation was a complete success. Yay! Jacques is back! John? I've missed you, John. Jacques! The rest of us left after that. John was tearing up and we thought it best to give him some privacy. In fact, I didn't see him for several days. But eventually... Aww. That's so cute. He can even fly now. Can you believe that? Satch said Kakasu did some kind of optimization on him, so his wires don't run through his wings anymore. He's as happy as a clam. Jacques swooped down between us for a split second, just long enough to add, I resent that. I really think he can be a star someday, Hana. I'm sure he can, John. I'm sure he can. We'll see what I say about that. John and I were officially dating. Jacques is our ever-present third wheel. Well, that was how I would have liked it to be. To be honest, it was more like I was the third wheel. John and Jacques' bond, stronger than steel and wires, surpassed even the love John and I had for each other. But I didn't mind. All I cared about was seeing John happy, and if Jacques was part of that, well, maybe I could learn to love Jacques too. I have a bright future ahead of me. I believe this.
Yeah!
You do, you do. Together we'll be the best actor-manager pair the world has ever seen. You'll see your name in lights if it's the last thing I ever do. Believe it! And of course, Hana will be by our side the whole way through. Right, Hana?
Yeah.
Of course. Man, this is great! I've got 2 talented actors with me, not to mention a girlfriend I absolutely know I can count on. We've got a bright future ahead of us, I just know it. Not if I can help it. These 2. It looked like I would be stuck with them for a long time to come. And to be honest, that sounded wonderful to me. Best end. Yeah! We got the best end. We got the best end. Sorry, mini celebration? Yes! Okay, so I kind of cheated a little bit and I looked up some of those answers because I wanted to get the best end. Considering what I had already done and the fact that I found out you had to get points for this. Anyway, this is a super cute game, and I really just wanted to see, like, what the best end was with John. That's it. That's all I really, really wanted to see. If you guys want to see more endings and different romantic paths with people, I'm more than happy to play that. Just leave me a comment below. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me through this long series, this super long episode. Thank you so much. In any case, I'll see you guys next time. And thank you so much for watching.